Ow, ow. Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. My head hurts from that, and today I'm talking about the new album from David Guetta, 7. David Guetta is probably the biggest joke in all of electronic music. I once upon a time committed myself to listening to all 6 of his albums and reviewing them in detail, half out of morbid curiosity and half because I wanted something to point to in case people thought I only ever gave out positive reviews. I'll link the playlist for the series I did on Guetta in the description. Now, I will admit that Guetta has had a decent handful of decent tracks to his name, and 2 tracks I actually really like in One Love and Would I Lie to You. But honestly, most of what he's released is complete trash, and there's no reason to listen to any of it aside from a cheap laugh or occasionally an actual good hook here and there. Even as far as the most commercial radio pop of this mold goes, you can do so much better than Guetta. Zed's entire Clarity album is really solid and well put together. Calvin Harris has a good single for every 2 clunkers he's put out. Steve Aoki's Neon Future projects were decent enough, I guess. Now I suppose you could technically also do worse than Guetta. I have yet to hear a Chainsmokers track I thought was better than Okay, or a Marshmello track I got any enjoyment out of at all. But Guetta is a bigger joke to me than those guys. For one thing, he has no style of his own. He's done nothing but trend hop his entire career and sound like other artists who have more recognizable sounds to their name. Whatever kind of EDM can get him on the pop charts, he will jump on that bandwagon. And another thing I always found kinda hilarious is that he'd never released a single track, ever, that didn't have someone else's production credit. I mean, I don't inherently disapprove of ghost producers in general, especially when you give credit to them like Guetta does. And I also know that he doesn't just sit in the background and do nothing. He has to be the main driving force in what makes his main album so crap. Guetta isn't as talentless as DJ Khaled or anything, but he's similarly a really easy target to pick on, and it's pretty telling that the comparison can be made at all. So how about I go down his discography so far? Decent, if very rough and amateurish house album that I gave a pass to long ago, mainly out of Stockholm Syndrome. But big shout out goes to Chris Willis, who is like the only singer who's worked with Guetta and sounded like he was having fun. Like the first album, but more boring. Like the second album, but a lot darker, probably unintentionally, and also much more tedious. I actually recommend listening to this. Specifically the continuous mix version that comes with the deluxe version. It's one of the most entertainingly terrible albums in house music history that just needs to be heard to be believed. And I also unironically really like the title track, but never mind that. Basically combines all of the bad things about the above albums, but isn't entertainingly terrible like One Love, just regular terrible. And comes with a bonus disc of mediocre instrumental. Sweet! This is basically a giant ripoff of Avicii's True, and one of the worst albums in all of electronic music. Technically listenable, but there's literally nothing of substance here at all. Just completely draining and soulless. Avoid at all costs. It is the lowest rating I've ever given to an album on this channel so far. Which brings us to here, now his 7th album to date, as you can probably tell from the very creative title there. Once this thing was announced, I knew I had to cover it. Not because I actually cared that much about listening to it, I just figured I'd get a funny video out of it. I've reviewed all the others, may as well cover this one too. Now while I did go into this fully expecting a complete turd from start to finish, I will admit I was maybe kind of intrigued by the tacked on second disc of this album that he did, mainly under the alias Jack Back, because the Wikipedia article said Guetta was the only production credit for 9 entire tracks, finally breaking his decades-long curse of not being able to make a track all by himself? Until someone updated the article to show, nope, just kidding, everything on the Jack Back project does have a co-producer as well. Mainly Timofey Reznikov and Ralph Wegner, or however you say those names. Of course, so much for that. Well, actually, there is a remix at the very end. That is just Guetta's production credit. But it's just a remix of just a little more love. I guess it counts. It's something. But I digress. Without any further prelude, what did we get with 7? Okay, so Disc 1 and Disc 2 are basically two completely different albums that have nothing to do with each other, so I'm kind of just going to review them separately. Now, Disc 1 is exactly what I expected it to be. It's basically a laundry list of recent Billboard trends, and that's it. That said, it wasn't nearly as torturous a listen as I expected. I mean, there's nothing really of substance here, any real reason to pick it up at all, as usual, but it didn't consistently annoy the crap out of me like Nothing But the Beat did, and it didn't drain all the life force out of me like Listen did. Even provided me with a fair couple of laughs, even if not so much as One Love. Now, every Guetta album so far has at least had a kind of sound or style that runs through everything, but this is the first one that doesn't even try doing that. This is basically 15 tracks of Guetta just throwing shit at the wall, thinking of basically every trend that led to something charting on Billboard in the last couple of years, and making something in every mold that could come to his mind. So going down track by track, the first track, Don't Leave Me Alone with Anne-Marie, is his take on Stay by Zed, complete with light trap hi-hats and Kygo snaps. The second track, Battle with Faurizia, or however you say that. That's his big Imagine Dragons-style, generic, inspirational millennial pop anthem, complete with the 4 chords of pop and trap hi-hats again. It's basically watered-down Titanium, and that should really be saying something. Flames with Sia was a single released way before the album that I didn't even bother to listen to at the time because I don't need inspirational anthem number 4214 from Sia all over again. But it's actually probably the best track on this disc of the album. Its watery disco grooves didn't sound that bad at all, like if Dangerous from Listen had a decent singer behind it. I mean, I will admit I've gotten pretty sick of Sia, but I'll take her over Sam Martin. Am I ever going to listen to Flames again? No, but good job, Guetta. You made a passable track. Have a cookie or something. Anyways, Blame It On Love with Sia ripoff is an almost decent Kygo track at first, but then has this really awkward and flat non-drop that has all the punchiness surgically removed from it. Now at this point I was just like, wow, this album is really disappointing. It's not nearly as terrible as I expected, just lightweight and inoffensive. But thankfully Guetta really starts to deliver the total garbage after this. Say My Name is a reggaeton track featuring BB Rexha, who I still do not get the appeal of at all. She keeps doing that weird Valley Girl talking up thing that Dan Reynolds did on Thunder. Say my name, say my name. Oh, and J Balvin is here too, I guess. He adds nothing. If not for those marimba things in the background playing to my tastes of liking the sound of that particular instrument, it'd have nothing of value at all, and still those don't make up for the rest of the crap. Anyways, we then get a nice variety of really big low points after this. Goodbye. Whoa, this is a complete mess. Starting out with Nicki Minaj singing in 4 chords of pop formation while accompanied by her voice pitched up like 2 octaves. Nice. Then Jason Derulo comes in over another reggaeton beat. Sounds great already, doesn't it? He's talking about speaking Espanol, babe, and coming in you knew. And something about Jamaica, too, because why not? In the chorus, they're all talking about being down for your lovin', while Nicki is down for your nutty nutty. Neat. And she raps about getting a football trophy and says touchdown. Oh, did I mention that the song is called Goodbye and otherwise has no indication that it's about that, aside from Nicki saying it once in the chorus? And it's track 6 of 15. Holy crap. At least Goodbye Friend from Listen at least kinda resembled the Goodbye song if you squinted at it just right. Oh yeah, and Willie William is here too because Mi Gente was a hit that one time. Anyways, next track is I'm That Bitch featuring a rapper by the name of Saweetie, who I guess is here because he couldn't get Cardi B. And ooh, yeah, she sounds god-awful. It sounds like he was rapping to a completely different beat. No, it sounds like he was just talking at a normal tempo to no beat at all, and she had her voice artificially sped up and slowed down and heavily edited just in order for her to be on the beat. And it has some of those big soundtracky horn blares that I've heard in a bunch of other trap songs before, I guess. But the whole thing just sounds awkward as hell. Then we get the other decent song from this disc, Like I Do with Martin Garrix. The vocals on here are not that good. Unfittingly understated and rather fake sounding. I don't like them. But the drop's actually really fun, which is not something I thought I'd say about a Martin Garrix track. Like, seriously, it's got some real energy, a nice melody. It's actually not bad at all. Then there's To You with Justin Bieber, which is old as hell. That's from last summer, and I already talked about it in my Worst Hits of 2017 video. But it's here on this album, probably because it was the last time Guetta actually charted on Billboard here in the US. And then She Knows How to Love Me is an exact copy of Hey Mama, old 60s sample, which really sounds good, I guess. Monotone singing from Jess Glynn to replace Nicki Minaj and BB Rexa. Admittedly a switch out I can get behind. But over the same loud and boring trap beats, and also Stefflon Don as a verse and adds nothing. Like, Guetta. I know that was the last time you hit the Billboard Top 10 in the US, but like, can you not? I really do not need any more Hey Mama in my life, thank you very much. But then we get an actually unintentionally pretty decent transition into Motto, Guetta's attempt at jumping on the SoundCloud rap trend with a very similar loud and boring trap beat, similar to the last track. Bringing on Lil Uzi Vert and G-Eazy, who I can barely tell apart, and someone else called Molly Mall. Not Melly Mel from the old Grandmaster Flash days of hip-hop. No, Molly Mall. Apparently he's like a shitty generic hip-hop producer from what I can tell. Oh yeah, and Steve Aoki is here too, because he did that album of trap songs a while back. Okay. Anyways, what trends we got left to touch on? Not sure, let's just rehash some we already touched on before and pad out the album. We got Drive with Black Coffee and Delilah Montague, which I guess is this average tropical house thing. It's inoffensive and forgettable, I guess. Then Para Que Te Puedes, which is, of course, another reggaeton track featuring J Balvin and some really terrible sounding guitars. And the 4 chords of pop, because why not? Then there's Let It Be Me, another one of the more unbelievable moments on this thing. Starts out pretty generic sounding and unremarkable, but first of all, the chorus samples Tom's Diner by Suzanne Vega, and runs through a filter to make it sound like it's coming out of a telephone, I guess? But what's amazing about this track is when the singer on here, Ava Max, suddenly starts stuttering. Not stutter edits, just regular stuttering. And it completely catches me off guard and cracks me up every time. Cause I need ya. And I love ya. Sounds absolutely ridiculous. And they do it like 3 times where they thought that sounded good. Christ. Finally, that leaves the closer, Lightheaded, also with Sia, and we're ending with a ripoff of Martin Garrix's Scared to Be Lonely, crossed with Alessia Cara's Scars to Your Beautiful, and Sia has auto-tune for some reason and sounds like ass. I guess he was trying to bookend the album with 2 tracks with similarly flat drops. I don't know. That's a lot of material in this album, I gotta say, and that's just the first disc. I'll leave some closing thoughts on disc 1 since, again, the second disc doesn't sound anything even remotely like it. But I think more than anything, David Guetta's 7 just reeks of desperation. Guetta freaking out that he's become irrelevant and is trying whatever he can to get that crossover again. Being it rehashing trends that we've heard a million times in the past year or two, or rehashing specific hits from fellow producers, or even rehashing his own hits. Just throwing so much shit at the wall in hopes that something will stick. Honestly though, I doubt any of this is actually going to stick, because it's all kind of shit. You're not fooling anyone, dude. Just because you managed to pull off a hit by duplicating one of your old hits before with Where Them Girls At, yeah, I think we might be at the point where people are starting to recognize Guetta for the hack that he is and not giving him the attention anymore. Or I might be wrong about that too. I'll give this album credit for being a total laugh riot. It succeeded in being entertainingly awful, unlike his last 2 which were just regular awful. But I'm not gonna give it points just for making me laugh. Otherwise I'd have given the Chainsmokers album from last year a pass. I mean, at least One Love felt like an unintentional parody of my childhood and had kind of a charm to it that drew me in. This, aside from 2 decent tracks and a bucket of cheap laughs, David Guetta's 7 is more pathetic and desperate than anything, and only worth checking out for the memes or something. I'm feeling like a 3.5 on disc 1. But I also now gotta talk about the second disc of this album too, also known as the Jack Back mixtape. Now, I didn't have high expectations for this given how mediocre Guetta's bonus instrumental disc from Nothing But the Beat was. I figured this wasn't going to be that far off either, even though there's no consistent sound from the main album that he could have pulled from. And yeah, unlike the Nothing But the Beat instrumental disc, the Jack Back mixtape sounds nothing like what was on the pop album. Like, as for the actual sound on this project, Guetta sorta returns to his roots here and makes really straightforward tech house. Like, he once made a track called Pelican as a bonus track on Listen. People were bugging me to check it out as, oh, it's an actual good Guetta track. Now I've heard it, I can tell you, this whole project kinda sounds like Pelican, and variations on that kind of style. It doesn't come off as desperate or pathetic, since he's not trying for any crossover appeal in the first place. The guy's just having fun, and that's it. And it shows! I think this is a much better look for Guetta than the complete clusterfuck that was the first disc. In fact, despite the Ghost producers still being here, I feel like this is probably what Guetta would sound like if he were to work all by himself for once. The Just a Little More Love remix Guetta actually did by himself kind of proves that to me. So yeah, points to Guetta for at least moving in a direction that I think suits him well and puts him on the path to my enjoying him unironically. But to be real, he's not reinventing the wheel here. He kind of just takes old tried and true tech house formulas and he goes back, Jack, and does it again. Turntable turning round and round. Sorry, I just wanted to make that joke. But yeah, I'll admit, if this didn't come from an artist I knew so well for spewing the worst and most commercial EDM pop garbage for over a decade, I just think this to be pretty good. Nothing incredible or game-changing, probably move on, forget about it. I doubt it's going to be the kind of thing I'll put on regularly, but the fact that it is coming from Guetta and it's this easy to take seriously and just enjoy totally unironically, the fact that I'm open to actually returning to this every once in a while, let's be real, that's huge. I will have to give Guetta his fair due for this mixtape, which I think is actually good. Yeah. In terms of individual tracks, not all of them give me something to say, admittedly. Like, I know people were bugging me about Pelican. That probably stood out way more among the soulless commercial dirge of Listen, but in this project, it just sounds like everything else on here and doesn't stand out to me. It's satisfying and well produced, but that's it. But there's some stuff with like some old school house sampling hooks like Reach For Me and Freedom and What To Say. There are tracks with more groove like Back and Forth, like, wow, like David Guetta track that actually makes me want to dance. Holy crap. There's tracks with like more melodic flares, like Think Think Think. I think that song's actually great, holy crap. Or there's stuff like the menacing vibes of Overtone, the synth blaring of Inferno, or the text-to-speech heavy Grenade, which almost feels like Atomic Food meets Come to Daddy? Maybe only because of the listing out nouns and wanting your soul hook, but still that is a comparison I made. Orion even sounds a little bit like he worked with someone like Roan. The classical tinged melody sound a little like the title track from his last album. And the Just a Little More Love remix, okay, it's not better than Wally Lopez's remix, but it's fine. What To Say would have been a better ending, and I probably won't keep the new mix despite it being proof Guetta actually does know how to produce. But still, this is not at all the kind of thing I expected out of Guetta, and like, I actually like this entire second disc as a solid house album. And I'll actually give it my recommendation. It's not the greatest thing I've ever heard, I'm not gonna say you should go out of your way for it, and again, if this wasn't coming from Guetta, I would not be this enthusiastic over it. I just say, it's alright, I like these tracks, and kind of move on from there. But it's good, even if it weren't coming from Guetta. It's still good. I kinda can't believe this, but the second disc of David Guetta 7 actually gets a solid 7 out of 10. I'm not gonna bother giving a rating for the full package because the two albums, again, have nothing to do with each other. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave the comments in the comment thing down there. Shout out to my Patreon supporters. They're awesome people. If you want to add yourself to that list or make me review something, link to my Patreon is in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.